Guys, it has been a doozy of a week here at Taport headquarters, aka my house. I've had so many great video ideas that just keep falling apart. First, I was planning to make a video about how to get the cool new Mark 7 helmet that got added to MCC, but then 343 went and made it literally free. You just have to log in and claim it, which fair enough. So I thought, no big deal, I'll work with what I got, and instead I'm going to make a video on how to get the most points out of the season as efficiently as possible. Then, the next day, 343 had to go and drop some awesome new details about the upcoming Waypoint app and some of the unlockables that we'll see in Halo Infinite. So, second script goes out the window, and here we are with the third and final video idea. Alright, so in today's video, we'll be going over the latest Inside Infinite post on Halo Waypoint from this past Thursday. As always, there will be a link to the post down in the description, so definitely go give it a read to enjoy the news for yourself directly from the source. 343 always packs these with a ton of info and photos that really deserve to be seen firsthand by anyone who's excited about Halo Infinite. I'm obviously not complaining that they serve us creators content on a silver platter, but at the same time, I do know how much work goes into creating these things, and I hate to feel like I'm stealing their numbers, so do go check it out. Before we get rolling, I do need to give thanks, as always, to everyone for all the support everywhere. On Twitch, I'm starting to see more consistent viewership, and on YouTube, I'm still coming off of the hottest video release I've ever done, and it's literally the best week in my channel's history. We hit a never-before-seen 178 views in the first 24 hours, and we're currently sitting on 109 views 5 days later. I also now have over 900 subs, which just absolutely blows my mind. I know I say it weekly, but I do mean it every time. Thank you for everything. The views and likes and comments, it all means so much to me that the content I bust my ass over week after week is actually entertaining you, and an audience is the sole thing that most creators could ever dream of. In case you're here from the last video, welcome back, and if you're new, I hope you love this video enough to come be part of my welcome back next week. Lastly, fellas, please remember to check the description for my socials and website to come say hi wherever you'd like to find me. I know things look kind of barren when you initially get there, but I am trying to work on it. I want to start posting more updates here and there about what I'm working on, when I'll be streaming, etc., etc. So don't be afraid to follow when you're there, and I will hopefully be delivering more content to each of those platforms in the future. Alright, let's talk some Halo Infinite news. In this month's Inside Infinite installment, we met with some of the live team who are working on Halo Infinite, namely Ryan Paradis, the team's design director, and Christopher Blom, who is the lead progression designer. We also got a secondary interview with the Waypoint team, but we'll come around to that in no time. Right out of the gate, Ryan reminds fans about the pillars that they want to support Halo Infinite on after launch, which are: healthy engagement is paramount, we maintain a player-first focus, provide unambiguous value, and always be listening, learning, and experimenting. To me, these all sound like solid principles to base decisions on, but it's really going to take some time to see these through before I'm fully convinced that it's truly how things will stay. So far, engagement is way high compared to the early stages of Infinite's development, and players have been put first in that there's something for everyone, whether you want to play for free or invest in passes on the multiplayer. Unambiguous value means that battle passes last forever and you aren't paying for a chance to participate in events that you might not actually end up having time for when life happens, which by the way gets pointed out later in the interview. And always be listening has been hugely reflected by all the massive changes we saw from the original reveal to the latest glimpse of what Infinite is looking like. So I think that at this point, the standards that are guiding the team have held up. From here on, we also get some detail on what Halo Infinite as a live game will really mean, and how seasons will keep the game healthy and lively with new content. Infinite seasons were officially announced to be 3 months long compared to the Master Chief Collection's 2-month seasons, meaning they will happen quarterly, and we also got a tease of what's in store for us when Ryan commented that seasons will come with a ton of updates, gameplay content, events, systems, customization, progressions, and quote, new. So it definitely seems like they have huge plans for continuously growing and improving the game as it matures, which is great to hear and will probably keep Infinite populated for quite some time. But again, that's only for as long as things stay interesting. Releasing fresh content every 3 months does make me wonder how sustainable it is before it potentially takes a turn for the worse, with cosmetics or other choices that lose vision, as I said in my last video. I don't want to be negative, but 10 years of quarterly content is 40 seasons. It doesn't sound like that much, but I assume that's at least 40 40 sets of armor that people will expect to be unique and interesting, which is tough to pull off. Not impossible, but tough. Then again, they have a ton of content and resources to pull from, not to mention that I assume a lot of it is already planned out or perhaps even done, which means there's a buffer and it isn't going to take 3 months of crunching during every season to work on what's next. If they can get it done, more power to them, but it's just something to consider as we all get snowballed into this hype. Personally, I wouldn't be opposed to an off-season here and there if 343 gets ahead of themselves, but at the same time, don't make a promise if you know you can't keep it. An extra thing to add, by the way, is that although fixes and tweaks will come every season, Ryan did clarify that bug fixes are not going to be limited to launching with seasons, and they do have the ability to roll out fixes as needed if they're urgent. But they will also need to prioritize what they address and when, which means that big things like balance patches or repairing a broken feature will likely happen sooner, and smaller things like maybe a visual bug or other minor glitch will probably be addressed later as they get to it. It's pretty standard stuff when it comes to problem solving, but I figured it was worth mentioning. At this point, Chris Blom, who I haven't mentioned yet, takes the wheel as we get into some of the more fine details regarding seasonal content. Starting with Season 1, he teases that big things are planned for us. He mentions weekly activities for the players to progress through, but I feel like that's just putting a bow on the same weekly challenges Halo the Master Chief Collection already brings to the table. Maybe there's more depth to the new Infinite challenges than we've seen so far, or maybe he's just priming us for the bomb he knew he was about to drop called Fractures. Chris describes Fractures as events with thematic rewards that aren't canon and let 343 introduce more unique items to players, such as the Yoroi armor we saw revealed at E3. So let me hit pause here and drop some of that sweet speculation because Tappy's got a steaming hot pile of take. He mentions that rewards will be thematic. Remember that word, and specifically points out the Yoroi armor. Yoroi armor was traditionally worn by the Japanese samurai and looked basically like what our E3 Spartan donned in the multiplayer reveal. In that reveal, we saw him arm himself with an energy sword to go for kills, which makes me wonder if the Fracture unlocks might literally be related to the challenges you complete to earn them. Are you still remembering thematic? Samurai swords? Energy swords? We already know the Yoroi will be available at launch, so I'm calling it now. The armor will be tied to sword kills as a reference to the samurai who use swords in battle and don the armor for themselves. Think about it. I mean, we're already seeing it in MCC, where you can get a sword skin for getting sword kills, or a BR skin for BR headshots. Who's to say we can't have samurai armor for getting samurai-style kills? Or how about this? We saw the Armet helmet attachment in the recent Showcase Sensitive. Why can't we also have a full Armet-styled helmet for getting hammer kills, or something like that? Maybe I'm going off the deep end, but I do feel like I'm onto something here. Definitely drop a comment and let me know what type of armor or challenge combo you'd want to see. Alright, back to Planet Earth as we get on with the interview. On the topic of unlocking cosmetics, Chris reveals something that was new to me. A free battle pass track, which is kind of self-explanatory, but probably means you can unlock certain things from the season just by participating in it. Then after the season's end, you'd probably need to purchase the pass to go back and complete anything else you didn't have time to earn, or to collect the paid pass cosmetics that you maybe still want. On other ways that you could earn cosmetics, he also lists the paid battle pass, challenges, skill rewards, event rewards, legacy rewards like the Halo 5 SR-152 armor, and finally some rewards for campaign actions, which we actually got a little peek at in the Waypoint interview where the user completed Chief's story for our tomorrow. Otherwise, some giveaways were also confirmed that only require you to log in on certain days, presumably for 343 Day or Infinite's launch. Okay, so to round out this first interview, we get a few more details elaborated regarding the paid battle pass. Ryan notes that the Infinite Pass will be supplemental to the time you're already investing into the game, and your pass will never expire, which I assume means it will probably function similarly to Modern Warfare's system, where XP progresses your pass, and instead challenges will be on the side to help you reach your tiers more quickly if that's your mentality. After that, we get a final tease that more customization reveals are probably coming, and then Chris and Ryan say their goodbyes. So to briefly summarize everything, we found out about Fractures, which are non-canon unlocks tied to challenges. We don't know if they will be limited availability or if they can be earned whenever. A free battle pass was confirmed that will feature cosmetics and other seasonal content for people who prefer the free-to-play Halo experience, and on that page, seasons will be quarterly. Lastly, more customization features are still to be teased in the future. Alright, so that live interview was a blast, but let's move on to the second interview of the day that we had with the Halo Waypoint team, who's working on a new and improved Waypoint experience that they refer to as Waypoint VNext. Overall, the interview is much less exciting and more technical, so I will kind of summarize the important parts. If you want to read it all for yourself, the post again is linked down below. The interview also has a ton of people, so I don't really have time to get into everyone's specific answers, and that is part of the reason why I'm doing a little bit more of a summary style. To give credit where it's due, this interview featured Tiana Loss, a senior experience designer, Kevin Paul, a senior program manager, Jason Unk, a user experience designer, Chad Marshak, a UI lead, Eric Dyes, a realization lead, CJ Ramos, and Eddie Arriesgado, who are UI and visual designers, David Rutka, a senior software engineer, and finally, Brandon Blanchard, a software engineer. They were all asked about the priorities for VNext, the reasons for a whole redesign, extending the out-of-game experience provided, as well as a few other filler questions that I'll elaborate here on in a bit. Alright, for starters, what are the priorities with VNext? We heard from a few different people here, and the important aspects were usability and integration. Waypoint will continue to be accessible as a mobile app and on browsers of all kinds, and although it wasn't mentioned, I assume that support as an Xbox app will also continue unless it becomes much more integrated with Halo Infinite in itself. It will also allow you to switch between Halo titles to see challenge progressions and stats breakdowns, as well as allow you to change your Spartan's appearance, which are all important things that have surprisingly been lacking in most modern games. Regarding accessibility, besides literally being able to access the app from anywhere, disabilities were also mentioned, which continues to show the inclusivity that 343 is pursuing in the future. We already saw that on the cosmetic side of things within Infinite, but now we're getting into it a bit deeper in regards to the details that sometimes prevent people from accessing a lot of the same content that myself and most others can enjoy freely. Things like color combinations on a graph can be hard or impossible to distinguish for users with color blindness, so instead VNext will try to use colors, contrast, textures, as well as font sizes and weights to help distinguish data in the app. Attention was paid to details like paragraph width to ease legibility of articles to deliver what Waypoint has to offer for all of its users. Things like color blindness are pretty common, so chances are you know somebody who has it, and most of the time it's no big deal. But I have personally seen my brother struggle with it in all kinds of video games that use green and red to identify friend or foe, and even when I made my rec points video back in the day, he couldn't read the color-coded chart I included in it. These small things are actually really big news for a huge amount of people that are unfortunately forgotten quite easily sometimes because their disabilities are invisible, which is why I'm emphasizing it so much here. Next up is integration, something that Bungie really spoiled us with starting with Halo 2, but we've kind of lost touch with it in Halo and the future titles. Luckily, VNext looks like it's going to dig back into a lot of that, and we got a render that showed a lot of the same stats that we can access in the Halo Master Chief Collection, including tabs for a full summary, campaign stats, and multiplayer stats. Even better, progression and customization, at least for Infinite, will also be accessible on Waypoint in a similar way to what's in-game. Also, fun fact, not related to this really, but we did actually get an extra little tiny piece of customization leaked here in the wrist gear slot that wasn't mentioned in the multiplayer overview. So here's your reminder to subscribe if you haven't already for more keen-eyed Tapboard leaks and sneaks. But unfortunately from there, I do feel like the real buzzworthy content winds down. There are a few more questions that I do suggest you take a look at, but it would just be unnecessary padding if I included them here and now. But with everything we're learning so far, Waypoint 2.0 seems like it will become much more of a companion app to Halo than it's ever been. Instead of being a surface level overview of your Halo career, it will hopefully end up being much more plugged into your experience when you're away from home, and I can definitely see myself keeping Waypoint open on the side when I'm playing or to help me track challenges and plan ahead when I'm thinking about video ideas. The app has been developed alongside Infinite, and that's presumably going to be where we see most of the features initially, but I'm sure that over time the features will grow and start to support older Halo titles as well. And with that, once again, here we are. Huge thanks, as always, to my patrons who are on screen now. All of my social links, including Twitch, Twitter, my website, etc., are all in the description, so if you'd like to join any of those, that's where you'll find it. Please leave a sub and ring the bell if you want to see more content in the future, and let me know what you're most excited for in Halo Infinite or the Waypoint update we'll be seeing. I hope you stick around, feel free to check out any of my other videos, and leave a comment if you have any questions or recommendations for videos in the future. Otherwise, this has been Ben, aka Tapwort. I hope you have a great day. Peace.